Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaniyah Omardien, and I am the founder and director of the Beach Coop, a non-profit company, which we registered in October 2017. There are two other directors, and we obviously have a board. We recently had our board meeting about 2 weeks ago. And I'll be taking you through the way we work and the Dirty Dozen, which is the main theme of today's talk, is a way in which we engage with our community that we work with. And so just to start off with, to give you an overview of our vision and mission. Our vision is to work collaboratively and creatively within the ocean community and with government and business to urgently protect and restore, regenerate the integrity of our ocean ecosystems. So this is really how we like to work. I worked at WWF South Africa for many years. It's a science-based organization, and this is what I try and bring through to the Beach Coop. It's how we like to work, working with scientists. But then, you know, one of the values that we like to carry in the Beach Coop is that we work in a creative and science-based way. So we believe that people learn best through meaningful and fun experiences linked to evidence-based information that supports them to take action. And so really that is how we like to work with communities, to engage with them so that they then become the change makers and drive change and policy so that we all care and protect for our marine environment. Our current focus, as you can see, is the elimination and reuse, recycling and redesign of single-use plastic or unnecessary plastic, in our marine environment in particular. Our goals, we have two goals. Firstly, to empower coastal communities as keepers of our oceans, and I'll take you through some of the projects there. And then the second goal is to keep South Africa's beaches clean and healthy, and this is where the Dirty Dozen comes into play. So if we go through the first goal, Surface Corner and our new moon cleanups is really the heart of the Beach Coop and how we started working. This is when I reached out to a few of my ex-colleagues from my networks, when I worked at WWF South Africa. And one of the people I reached was Professor Peter Ryan. And he's been doing research along our South African coastline related to plastics and marine debris for over 40 years. What he wanted to look at in particular was what we would find on the rocky shore. And he suggested that we start cleaning Surface Corner. So it's not a very big area, and we've been cleaning Surface Corner every month, every new moon for the last 5 years. Obviously with lockdown, we skipped 2 months, but we were lucky enough to get a permit and clean there very recently, in fact on Sunday. So this area, it's about 50 meters or so of rocky shore, and the idea was to see how much plastic we would find. Peter thought there would be less, and actually we found that up to 80% of what we find in the rocky shore is plastic debris. And what's interesting is it's very different to the sandy shore, which is where we conduct our Dirty Dozen cleanups. In that a lot of plastic bags get filled with sand and get caked in between the rocks and almost form hard bricks. So in the beginning, we were averaging about 7 to 8 kilograms of waste a month, and now we're down to 2 or 3. So it does go to show that if you keep cleaning the same area over a long period of time, it does make a difference. What's been interesting at Surface Corner is that we've also documented anemone ingestions. We've worked closely with the participants, with the citizens that arrive to help us, and they've actually helped us collect the anemone ingestions. We have a paper that we're busy about to publish and sending to Environmental Pollution, the journal. And we basically looked at monthly surveys, monthly cleanup surveys between May 2015 and August 2019. And in that time, there were about 491 ingested litter items. So we'd get participants to help us collect it. We'd go back to the lab and get dried and weighed and sorted by Peter and his team, Bonica and Eleanor. And Eleanor's now written up the paper with some research that Christy Munro, an honours student, also led in this specific area. Ingestion seemed to peak in autumn when the rain, washes into the bay, and then stormwater drainage obviously affects that too. What we found is mainly that the anemones are ingesting flexible plastics such as bags and packets and food packaging. So the recommendation is obviously to try and reduce and eliminate wherever possible unnecessary single-use plastic with this regard. Then our tidal pool program and the work there was largely led by Lisa Beasley, who worked with us in the last year, but is now focusing on her psychology degree. And the next slide actually shows the iNaturalist program that we've set up there. And likewise, what we're trying to do at Surface Corner is use iNaturalist to document the life that we find in the rocky pools as well at Surface Corner. And our festival program is really work that we do. We've worked closely with Wavescape, for example. They're a ocean awareness community. It started out as being a surfing kind of festival with movies, but now annually we do a beach cleanup with them. And there's another festival called Endless Days that we've been working with for the last 3 years as well. The photograph on the right at the bottom is one from Green Pop Festival when they did their Eden Festival, and so we've worked with Green Pop as well, which has been amazing. Going back to the tidal pool stuff, if I look at the photographs on the left, that's the work that we did with Waves for Change. We started out doing cleanups with the kids, and then Lisa also developed and led the program of taking kids snorkeling. And then independently, we funds to showcase what we were finding in the pool by getting Claire from Care One Love to depict graphically on the walls what we were finding. And this is something we'd like to extend throughout Cape Town and possibly into other provinces too. So yeah, speaking to iNaturalist and the tidal pool work, Lisa has set up this on iNaturalist so that we can start engaging with citizens and finding out what other species of plants and animals reside in our tidal pools. And I said we'd be doing the same at Muizenberg at Surface Corner. So here again, getting citizens, getting a community involved that falls in love with our marine environment. And by so doing, we want to protect what we love. We look at the second goal. So this is keeping South Africa's beaches clean and healthy. And really, this is where we started right in the beginning with the Beach Coop. This was our primary focus. It's when I met up with Peter and we decided to work on the rock shore. And as an extension of that, and through engaging with Peter, he spoke to me about the Dirty Dozen. And really, I'll take you through the next few slides, focuses on the Dirty Dozen. Through his work in the last 40 years, he had about 80 sites that he would go to regularly, long-term monitoring site. In fact, this year is meant to be one of the years that he visits those specific 80 sites and continues his research, his long-term monitoring research at specific beaches. And he's yet to see whether that will happen. But through documenting the beach cleanups, Dirty Dozen is what came out of that. And so this is a methodology that we use. And in the bottom right, you can see those are the dirty dozen items, the most commonly found ones. And we get our participants that attend our cleanups to help us monitor those items. We've been trying to work closely with youth as well, and we don't want to develop our own youth program. We wanted to work closely with organizations that have links to the youth already, and so we've developed work with Captain Fan Plastic. It's a very innovative way of engaging youth through storytelling, which is how we like to work too, and we hope that this relationship grows. And then there's the Limpet program. You'll hear more from Dr. Maya Puff tomorrow about Limpet, but it's a Rocky Shore program, survey program essentially, and they also do cleanups on the Rocky Shore. So we've got a Dirty Dozen version for the Rocky Shore too. And this is something we're currently chatting to Maya about and potentially looking at doing it at Surface Corner as well. And then there's Free July campaign, which is really run every year in July for the last 3 years. The top right picture is Jackie May from Twig and myself. And I'll take you through a slide on that in a bit. So here we go. That's the Dirty Dozen, and a quote from Peter, and he feels that many volunteers or participants aren't really interested in knowing where the source or the manufacturer markings, where the actual products come from, and most people, don't have all day to collect data, but at least with the Dirty Dozen, people are interested. We have many or countless stories and chats on the beach while we're busy cleaning, where people are completely astounded at the number of straws, for example, or earbuds or cigarette butts that they may find. But as you can see from the next slide, cigarette butts are in fact not one of the Dirty Dozen because of the fact that there's so many of them and people stop wanting to count them. They become overwhelmed. But we do have certain cleanups where we dedicate those cleanups to cigarette butts and getting as many, especially if we know that beach in particular has many cigarette butts, then we get people to focus specifically on picking those up, and there's a prize at the end that kind of incentivizes people to do so. And so the Dirty Dozen, as the first bullet points out, items chosen as indicators of significant sources of beach litter from ocean-based, land-based sources and so on. So the second bullet there speaks about, picking up litter. We pick up all the litter, but only record the 12 Dirty Dozen items. And then to date, this is how many cleanups we've done since October 2017, 121 of them, and only 113, let me see, have been Dirty Dozen cleanups. It's the number of people we've reached, over 7,000 people, and that's the estimated distance. We usually average just over a kilometer per beach that we're cleaning. And we only started weighing our litter from the beginning of 2019. So that's 6 tons of litter there. Here we go. That is the Dirty Dozen graph of the data that we've collected since the beginning of since October 2017, sorry. And those are the top 3 Dirty Dozen items, and no real surprises there. Individual sweet wrappers, cool drink lids, and straws. And this is the plastic-free Mzansi slide that I mentioned earlier. So this is outcomes from a campaign that our campaign that we ran last year with WWF, South Africa, and Twig. And we chose these 3 items as the ones we wanted to promote and get people to become more conscious and aware about, to try and do without. And it was a very successful campaign. We had 4 beach cleanups. We try and do 4 beach cleanups, 1 per weekend. And this was the message that we used with influencers as well. We engaged with influencers to try and spread the message. The year before that, we had an influencer per day of the month, so 31 influencers. And the theme for the year before last, 2018, was we worked closely with the Two Oceans Aquarium and their plastic bag campaign, which was to try and get people to not buy any plastic shopping bags, but to rather use their shoppers when they went shopping. And this year is obviously going to be a little bit more tricky and difficult. We've actually looked at the Marine Debris Tracker app and would like to engage and start using the app with our Dirty Dozen methodology. It looks like a great platform for us to use, and we're hoping to encourage people to do their own cleanups in small groups. And we are chatting with Twig and a few designers to design products that influencers would showcase, and the designs would need to use one or some of the Dirty Dozen items to create the product that those influencers would then market. And so really this is the end of the presentation, the collage there showing all the work that we've been involved with through time, and that our focus is really around connecting and empowering communities. It's based on evidence-based learning and experiential learning. What we're ultimately trying to create are ecological citizens that become change makers and drive policy and advocacy for our marine environment. And that's how you can contact us, where you can reach us. And also we've just recently released our annual report, which is on our website. If you go to our blogs, you'll find our report in our most recent blog. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaniyah. If anyone has any questions, please type them in the chat along. In the meantime, Aaniyah, I was wondering if you could expand a bit on the plastic-free Zanzi campaign that you spoke about, and its kind of success and how you measured the impact that it had.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. That's a good question. It's a tricky one to actually measure the impact that it has, but we looked at our advertising value equivalent. I can't remember the figure offhand now, but it was well over R1 million. So that's the amount of awareness we obviously raised through our work with our influencers, and then the actual beach cleanups. As I mentioned, there were 4 of them, and so the message around plastic Zanzi and trying to avoid, in particular, those 3 items during the month was one that we shared with over 100 people, more than 100 people. I can't remember how many people attended each cleanup. So yes, that was our measure of how we had made a difference. And it's quite a young campaign in South Africa. It's obviously been going, I think in Australia they celebrate 10 years of having the Plastic Free July campaign going. And this is only the 3rd year in South Africa. So it is something that we would love to work with other organizations on. And if SST are keen, it's certainly something we can chat about outside of this webinar.
Thanks, Aaniyah. There have been some questions in the chat. Alistair asked, with the influencers, what social media platforms will you use?
So we've used pretty much all of them. I know we've used Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So those are 3 main means of communicating on social media.
All right. And Maya asked, how will COVID-19 affect the beach co-op and the operations in the near future?
Yeah, so that's why we've also been looking at the app, because if we are allowed eventually back onto the beach. We won't be able to host events. I mean, sometimes we reach up to 200 people joining us, especially when we work with the Two Oceans Aquarium, because they have a much bigger target audience that they can reach. And so, that's not going to be possible in the near future. And we'd like to, therefore, we'd like to use the app to try and get people to do beach cleanups in smaller groups. And then there's something that I have started looking into is Airbnb experiences, and actually being able to take people on a journey, visually, to see what we find in tidal pools. But obviously there's only a certain amount of people that have access to the internet and that can therefore experience that. So we have to reinvent ourselves and come up with new ways of trying to engage with individuals, to share our love for our marine environment so that we can protect it.
Just to build on that question, Anya, since the Beach Coop has been sampling during the lockdown, can you comment on the items that you've been finding, the items of the Dirty Dozen that have been increased or decreased during this time?
So yes, I can certainly do that. When Peter Ryan got the permit initially, I wasn't part of the first crew that went out. So we were about 3 weeks into lockdown when they did their 10 consecutive days of cleaning 3 specific beaches. The one was close in False Bay, was Sunrise Beach and Muizenberg Beach. And then there was another beach on the Atlantic side, Milnerton Beach, that was cleaned as well. I never went and joined Eleanor, who led the Milnerton Beach cleanups, but Peter did say that the first few days after lockdown, the beach was at its dirtiest. Obviously, it was again about a 400-meter stretch that they cleaned, and I'm not sure what Dirty Dozen items they found, because I only joined the crew on day 6. And we certainly found a few earbuds, which is part of the Dirty Dozen, and plastic bags. But I've written a blog about it too. So that's the blog on cleaning beaches during COVID. And have a look. What was interesting, the interesting finding there was they were obviously the gulls. For those that know, there is a dump site just behind the beach at Sunrise Beach. And the kelp gulls, they because of lockdown, were able to access the beach more freely. There were no dogs or people, and so they were spending a lot more time on the beach. And what Peter and Vonica were finding were these balls of plastic, which the gulls ingest, and they were coming directly from the dump behind us. Because they were going for food on the bits of plastic. So invariably, the plastic is rolled up in a ball, and you find it on the beach. And as you unravel it, it's usually food packaging. So chicken plastic that chicken was wrapped in, or something like that. So they were finding more of those on the beach than in the sand dunes, where the gulls usually roost. So that was very interesting.
Thanks, Anya. There's a question from the Ocean Conservancy that says, hi there, thanks for the presentation, Anya. My question is, how were the Dirty Dozen items originally selected? Will you adjust the Dirty Dozen if you begin seeing other waste items becoming prevalent on your beaches?
Very good question. It's something I've been chatting to Maya about, and Maya has felt that there's no room currently to include other items, and she feels that we need to make sure that is addressed, and I agree with her. So we are working on that. So originally the Dirty Dozen came from the surveys that Professor Peter Ryan had been doing on those 80 beaches along South Africa's coastline from 40 years ago. So every 5 years he tries to go to those exact beaches, and it's as a result of his extensive research there that he narrowed it down to those 12 items. And yes, what we'd like to be able to do is review the Dirty Dozen and allow for items that become more common to be included, and so by so doing remove the others that are no longer problematic. And also, should there be legislation that comes into play that bans certain items that may be on the dirty dozen, then obviously that allows us to shift that, and that's something that we're in discussion with Maya about, and also our board.
There's a question from Lisa that says, is Maisenberg Beach cleaned by municipal services? If so, that may affect what you pick up.
So yes, Muizenberg Beach is one of the beaches that gets cleaned regularly. What's interesting though, because even though that happens, the municipal workers tend to pick up the larger items, and the little items get left behind. So that's Muizenberg Beach itself is one of the beaches that we target to pick up cigarette butts, and things like lollipop sticks and earbud sticks are very, very common there, and lots of them can be found there. The municipal workers do not, however, clean on the rocky shore. So the Surface Corner is our long-term study site there, and it's, the reason we choose New Moon is so that the rocky shore is exposed and we can actually walk on the rocks and find plastic bits in the rock pools, in amongst the rocks. But also what I love about that clean is that there's also a lot of life, and so we're able to document through iNaturalist now the life forms that we are finding there, and it's a wonderful experience if you're wanting to learn more about our marine ecology and rocky shore.
Thanks, Aaniyah. Interesting to know as well why you sample at New Moon. Sorry. There's a question from Ursula that says, excellent work, the Beach Coop. What do you do with the waste collected once it's been weighed and analyzed, etc.?
So Surface Corner was where we used to. Surface Corner is where we used to take things back to the lab and have it weighed and analyzed. A lot of the plastic, as you can imagine, is not recyclable, so it wouldn't be recycled and would end up going to landfill. For our other cleanups that we do, some of our Dirty Dozen cleanups, and you'll see in our annual report, is specific, especially in this last year, we had quite a few corporate cleanups, and we encourage the corporate cleanups to also budget for the collection of litter, and where possible the recycling of that litter. Unfortunately, most of the time the reports that we get back from our recycling company that we contract is that the litter is not recyclable. And in Cape Town, given the last year and a bit, we've had major water restrictions, and in order to recycle, a lot of the time these companies need to wash everything. So that is something that we would like to address. I'm not sure how exactly, but it is something we want to improve on. Oftentimes we get asked for our plastic or whatever we found to be used in art projects or art installations. So that's where some of the litter goes sometimes as well.
There's a question from Kola that says, have you guys considered working with student societies at the universities?
Yes, we have engaged with student societies both at Stellenbosch University and at UCT. What I've tried to encourage is that others take on the responsibility of caring for a section of coastline close to them, like we've done with Surface Corner. Because, Surface Corner right now is depending on the time of the year and the seasonality, is mainly a lot cleaner than what it was when we started out. So it would be great to get other societies, organizations, communities to take responsibility for their stretch of coastline. It's difficult, people are keen to engage and volunteer, but when it comes to actually committing to do something once a month, then it becomes a little bit more problematic.
Thanks, Anya. There's a question from Danny that says, we're struggling to get a permit to sample specifically for litter monitoring under the current lockdown. What permit do you or does your research fall under, and can you give us some advice on who to contact?
Which province is she in? Cape Town?
In Eastern Cape. This is Danny, our head of research at SST.
Okay. Well, I think it really differs per province, and we're lucky enough to work very closely with someone that heads up oceans and coast in the city. So that is how we managed to get our permit. I don't actually have it in front of me. Someone also asked me what category is it, and there's no category on my permit. So it just allows us to work between Muizenberg and Cork Bay. We aren't allowed to go anywhere else. And it's really as a result of the relationship that we have with the city on our other projects, and the long-term kind of trust that we've built with an individual that clearly has the authority to hand out permits.
Thanks, Anya. There's a question from Carla that says, thank you for your presentation, Anya. In your opinion, what are some of the most effective tools and methods to gain public support for your initiatives?
What I've found is people want to engage, and they want to help, and they want to make a difference. And in the past, obviously now with COVID-19, that's very different, and we're going to have to evolve how we reach people that want to make a difference. In the past, I found that beach cleanups, they really have become quite a thing. People absolutely love them. They feel like they're making a difference. It's an opportunity to meet up with friends and do something together, and learn as well. And that's what the Beach Coop has created in some ways, I suppose. And there are many other amazing organizations that are doing similar work, especially in Cape Town. So I would say that creating an environment that makes people feel comfortable and have fun and enjoy what they're doing, but at the same time be learning something new and feel that they are contributing towards a good cause. So we really believe that people learn best through meaningful and fun experiences, linked to evidence-based information that supports them taking action. So one of our values, is really this creative and science-based way of working.
There's a question from Ursula that says, does the Beach Coop initiatives extend or plan to extend to rivers or canals and other waterways to prevent plastic waste from reaching the oceans in the first place?
Yeah, I love that. And that is something that I have thought about. And we have done a few cleanups with corporates along rivers. It becomes a whole new ball game as far as safety protocols are concerned. So when we have done those cleanups, we've worked alongside other organizations that have the equipment, and we've had to include contracting medics to be on site with us. There tends to be a lot more hazardous waste than what you find on beaches. A lot of the time, the beach litter has been washed clean by the ocean. So it becomes a lot trickier. The work that the Litter Boom Project, for example, have been doing in KZN has been phenomenal. So putting booms up along the river to catch waste. John Keyser from Plastics SA has also been working with a few individuals and organizations here in the Western Cape. And I know there are a few others. Help Up is also doing amazing work in our canals and creating employment by doing so as well. So I definitely, and the Beach Coop definitely sees the value, and there are in fact, freshwater beaches too. So we don't only get seawater beaches, and it is something we'd like to explore. but for now, we're focusing on our marine environment.
There's a comment from Siviwe that says, "Good work, guys, and keep it up. Any suggestions or advice for someone in Pretoria, not close to any coast, but keen to participate and contribute to your program?"
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's awesome. When we worked with Adidas last year, we did a cleanup in Joburg along some of the rivers there. So I think, find your closest, and also cleanups in parks, plugging is quite a thing. So if you're inland, that's something you could do. And try and reach out to organizations that are cleaning rivers or wetlands or systems in areas close to home. Yeah, and that's really how the Beach Coop started. I surf at Muizenberg. It's my local surf break. I wanted to give back to a place that I love, and I feel that's a strong message as well, and it's something we're trying to get communities of people in taking care for their neck of the woods, taking responsibility.
Thanks, Anya. There's a question from Angela that says, "What effect does an app or tool like the Dirty Dozen have on increasing environmental education and encouraging behavioral change?"
Okay, so the Dirty Dozen, as I explained in the presentation earlier, is some of the most commonly found items we're finding on our beaches. And what we found through engaging at our beach cleanups with individuals, with participants, is they become really shocked at the number of, for example, cool drink lids or caps, bottle top lids that they collect. And so this in itself starts making people realize that they need to change the way they consume. And so the idea is for individuals to stop, or at least to attempt to not buy those items and bring them back into their homes. And that is the reason behind us using the Dirty Dozen methodology. When it comes to International Coastal Cleanup Day, which is on the 15th or so of September every year, we work closely with other organizations, and Plastics SA in South Africa. John Kieser leads the work there in coordinating the Ocean Conservancy data set. So we've also worked with the Ocean Conservancy data survey in September. So the list there is much longer than the Dirty Dozen, and people get very confused by the different categories and trying to log everything that's listed there. And we have the same with our Dozen, even though it's a lot less items that have been listed for people to categorize and count. So it is something we're trying to work around. We just recently, as I mentioned earlier, tested the app using the SST platform, actually. We cleaned some of the rocky shores at Dalebrook Beach, and we found it to be very useful. I am more of a pen and paper, old school kind of way of collecting data person. And I find that the light phone and the fact that it could drop into the water quite, tricky to work with. But it's the way people want to move. People want to use an app. And so we're exploring those ideas as well.
Thanks, Anya. There's a comment here from the Ocean Conservancy that says a lot of the apps can be used inland locations. I think Marine Debris Tracker can, and CleanSwell certainly can be. So those could be used in Pretoria then. And then there's a comment from Ursula that says Fresh.ngo are doing great work along rivers inland in Gauteng.
Fresh NGO is great, and that we have in fact worked with them when we worked with Adidas as well.
Thanks. I think there might be a bit of a delay. I have a question. On your website, you talk about how you use the data that you collect for research. I wondered if you have any specific research questions that you're striving to answer, or if you focus more on kind of reporting the data trends and stuff. I know you spoke about a publication that you guys had recently as well. Do you mind expanding on those?
So we're mainly looking at trends at the moment, but I am in the process of embarking on my PhD journey, and I do foresee using the data that we have collected in my research for my PhD as well. So I would like to include papers and manuscripts that I submit eventually, but it would more than likely focus more on this ecological citizen or ecological citizenship that we're trying to encourage, and increasing environmental education through using the Dirty Dozen methodology. The work that Peter's been doing and the real extensive, in-depth, science-based research that he's done on those 80 beaches, the findings of that work he's busy writing up, and I think it's very close to him publishing that work. And that's the research that will come out of there, and that's not specific to the Dirty Dozen though, but the Dirty Dozen obviously comes from the work that he's been doing along those along the South African coastline, and the research that he's done at those specific sites.
There's a comment from Peter that says, important also to mention that Beach Co-op's data is also assisting one of our interns and students to undertake her analysis around the economic impacts of plastic litter to beach tourism. I don't see any more questions in the chat at this stage, but if anyone does have any other questions that come up later, feel free to contact either the Beach Co-op or webinars at SSC Africa, and we'll happily pass that along. Thanks so much, Aaniyah. And thanks everyone for joining today. It's great to have you all here, especially a good way to connect while everyone's working from home. There have been a few thank you messages as well. So thanks again, Aaniyah. Then I just want to draw your guys' attention. We will be uploading the presentation to our YouTube site, and Aaniyah has agreed to make the slides available as well. We do have another webinar taking place tomorrow, so if you are interested, please send us an email, and we'll be happy to include you in the link for that. Thanks, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. For those in South Africa, we've definitely been hit by a cold front, so stay warm and stay safe, everyone. Thanks, guys.